Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. When it comes to War Thunder, one of the things that many people have always got questions about is World War Mode, and when is it coming back? Well, it turns out it's coming back tomorrow, and it's coming back between the 9th of February and the 13th of February. This is going to just be for Operation Nordwind, so this is a chance for people to get into the command seat and give it a go and see what goes on. Obviously, if they have anything available for the event, when it comes to general stuff, I'll be playing it tomorrow on stream, and we'll see what it goes like. Last time, I was able to kind of show what it looked like when it came to the actual commanding side of things, so why not maybe do that again? So they've updated Operation Nordwind as well. They've redesigned the vehicle groups and army compositions. So, for example, the M18 is now moved to the SPG group, which is designated the medium SPG group, and there's going to be a separate group which is light SPG, which also includes its premium version, so you no longer have to choose between the power of the M36 or the mobility of the M18. They've also added stuff like the Jabbo, the ME262, of course, to the lineup, and a bunch of different things. So a ton of different balance changes, so make sure to get yourselves involved in that. The other thing is they've done a ton of changes to the way that the matchmaking works and all of this. Basically, they've tried to make it a little bit more accessible to everybody and less focused on the squadron things. So the way that they've set it up is the same as last time. So if you remember in operations, instead of the way that it used to work where you would try and find specific battles, now what you do is you follow into specific operations through the search filter. Then once you're in that operation, you are able to participate on either side's battles and kind of go from there. A squadron is able to fully fill out a operation before randomers come in. If they want to, they have the first 10 minutes of the operation in order to get everybody into it. This means that if a operation is full with its own squadron members, then there will not be randoms on their team. So that's basically how it works. They also removed the restriction on random players entering the battles based on imbalance of sides. So basically, if one side has like 2 people and the other has 20, that can still go ahead now, where before it wasn't allowed to. The reason why they've removed this ban is because since everybody will go into the operations, even though you could technically get these imbalanced battles, they shouldn't be imbalanced because people are there on the operations to play them on either side of the setup, so it should be completely fine for both settings. That's at least the idea when it comes to World War Mode itself and how it's set up. One of the things that they've talked about is they have been taking a lot of feedback when it comes to the mode, so I suppose at least that's nice. They've also improved the mechanics of the Operation Search, so now there should be less imbalance when it comes to the search for things, so technically people should have straight up better experiences instead of getting either hammered or hammering. And it says also after quitting an operation and trying to find a new operation, the player is removed from the player list of the operation only after 10 minutes. So this means that someone else can come in. Obviously, you can only have a maximum amount of people on each side of the operation. So if you have a bunch of people who aren't on one side of the operation because they've left the operation, then it can become incredibly imbalanced. So now they've improved that too, which is quite nice. So it should be more up to date, and therefore you can get more standard battles. One of the things I've also done is brought in some commanders rewards, because obviously previously there wasn't really any of them, but they are in the form of SL. Now, a lot of the commanders that I've talked to, when it comes to it, they don't want SL as a reward because a lot of them are veteran players and they already have a ton of SL. But I suppose for the people, this may be quite nice. The reward for the SL will be calculated at the end of each operation based on the sum of the mission points of all players in all battles of the operation and distributed evenly to all commanders of that operation. The example they give, so the additional reward multiplier is different in case of victory, so it's 1.1, and in defeat is 0.9. So if there are two commanders with an activity of 25% and 75%, and the sum of all players' points in all battles of the operation is 100,000, they'll receive 0.25 times 100,000 times 1.1, which is 27,500, and also 0.75 times 100,000 times 1.1, which is 82,500 silver lines respectively, for their efforts in command. According to our calculations, a full playable operation, 1.5 to 2 hours, will bring their commanders about 250,000 to 500,000 SL. And at the same time, because of this, they have now put a cost to be able to play World War Mode. So now you'll have to put in 70,000 SL if you are a player who declares the squadron for a World War Mode operation. So whoever clicks the button has to pay 70,000 SL before the squadron can go in. So we'll have to see how it goes. Placing the squadron in the opponent's search queue in case of an early withdrawal from the queue will also not result in a waste of game currency. At the same time, they say that they're well aware of a quick victory over the enemy. So therefore, for this, there'll be a recalculation for a setup. So, for example, in the case of a quick victory over the enemy, in which only 20,000 mission points have been earned in battles, if there are two commanders, 80% activity for applicant and 20% for the second commander, the calculation works like this. So it would be 0.8 times 20,000 times 1.1, which is 17,600, which is less than the product of the activity, by the creation cost of the operation. So 0.8 times 75,000 equals 60,000. So the reward will be raised to 60,000 SL. So if the amount of SL is lower than the general creation cost, then it will be raised to that point. For the second commander, the reward will be 4,400 without any additional recalculation, since the expenditure obviously hasn't gone through. So basically, they're making it cost SL to play, but also if you are commanding, you can get more SL out of it, depending on how well your troops do in the battles. They're also adding a bonus reward for people who participate in the battles, and also make it clearer how much SL and also rewards you are generally using. So basically, the way that it used to work before is once you got out of a battle, you could check your messages window, and it would show you how much SL and RP you were getting towards your things. Now what they're going to do is at the end of an operation, there's going to be a pop-up window that comes up with all of your personal achievements and also bonus rewards, which are calculated from the sum of the SL earned in all battles of the operation. And in the case of victory, you get 30% of this amount, and in the case of defeat, you get 10% of the amount. For commanders, they'll also get a window that'll pop up, and therefore it'll show their personal activity and also the parameters for the rewards that they got, which is pretty cool. All of this will be duplicated in the message with the operation results, and you can always return to them and re-examine them later on. When it comes to the battle group stuff as well, they brought back battle groups. So if you didn't know what battle groups were, there's specific setups where you can bring a squad of 10 into a battle. They had a bunch of issues, and mainly the issues were if people moved around in them or people left, then it just broke the whole thing. So they said that they fixed them, so battle groups are back, so you can squad up with 10 people in an operation and then go ham. They've also added a new specific game mode for World War Mode, and this is another defense one. So it's kind of one of those which is designed if you catch an enemy unaware. So the way that a tank army works is if it's on the move, you would have a clash-on-clash tank battle, or if you ran into another ground unit, which wasn't an artillery, you would get a general domination match. If a tank setup was in a defensive battle, then you had to storm the defenses and be able to kind of crack through them to be able to push forward. Then, if there was a one where it was just generally entrenching, then it would just do the capture point one again. Now, if you are in the process of entrenching a tank unit, what it will do is it will create a new mission mode called Onslaught, or Defense in Depth. And instead of just having to capture one capture zone, Now what will happen is if you capture that initial capture zone, it will now release a part of the mission combat area which wasn't available before, and there'll be another capture point that you have to appear. So it'll be a lot harder to assault these guys, which are just sat in like their tank squad or their tank battalion. So you'll have to basically capture 2 zones instead of 1. Another thing they're also bringing in is the ability for commanders to invite people into the operation who are in their friends list. So that's kind of nice, I suppose. You can just kind of throw it out and try and get everybody into it. I think that's quite nice. And once again, a nice ease of usability thing. They've also made a bunch of other changes as well to the game mode, but they're much more minor ones. So starting with current and maximum number of air armies has been added to the airfield panel. They've also added a hint about the impossibility to raise an air army if the army limit has been reached, and that has been added on the airfield panel too. This is useful, especially for people like me who don't keep track of that stuff, so that's really nice. The maximum number of the respawn scores has been reduced to 300, so there are no more rare vehicles in operations on which you can respawn outside of the vehicle allocation for a significant amount of respawn scores over 1,000, and Air and AAA have been significantly lowered price, 100 to 150 score, so the former respawn score limit becomes severely overstated. This is nice to see. The damage model for trucks used in convoys adds a second new member for the passenger seat, who can replace the driver if necessary, so they basically made the trucks twice as tanky now. And the damage model of trucks used in convoys has also been replaced by a closer research tree model. Previously, these trucks had an increased chance of fire and a more fragile damage model overall. So once again, they've just buffed convoys. This isn't a terrible idea, because one of the ways that you would just annihilate stuff is by using planes, but also this doesn't get rid of the other problem, which is people tie up these things with planes. They don't necessarily throw in the planes to destroy the convoys, they just send them in to tie up the setups. Also, the AA defense and air raid missions have been reworked. Now the AI vehicles that are not the mission objective and whose destruction doesn't reduce the number of defender points don't appear in the mission, so it's very easy to target the correct ones. Now when attacking an infantry army, infantry platoons from the army will be replaced in missions not with SPAGs, but with anti-aircraft guns, as in the advanced to contact / defense missions. And also, when attacking an artillery army, the air vehicles will not fire at the aircraft, so they won't be able to knock people out. That was kind of funny with some of the 50 cals, like just getting bopped by stuff like M10 sometimes. Also, in all asymmetric missions in which the loss of attackers' points occurs with the time of the mission, a timer to the end of the mission has been added under the team points, the value of which corresponds to the timer in the statistics window of the mission. In all modes, the marker of AI-controlled vehicles, which are mission objectives, has been removed. Thus, it will become impossible to determine the approximate location of the targets by the arrows on the edge of the screen. Also, in the column interception missions, when the convoy advances, the old spawn points of the defenders will not be deleted but remain active along with the newly added ones. So overall, some pretty positive changes. It's nice to see all these. We'll have to see if this makes any difference to the mode itself. There's still a few issues that I can think of, as I said, like just basically throwing units into tie-up armies and things like that, but I don't think you can actually fix that. That's just kind of like a core mechanic to how it works. I'll give it a go tomorrow with some of the guys, and we'll see what goes on. So, as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.